In this video we're looking at the locations associated with the murder of Anita Cobby, which occurred on Sunday, February the 2nd, 1986 in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. Okay, so we'll start using Google Maps and we'll start at Sydney Hospital. This thing gets moving. We'll start in the heart of Sydney. Okay, so this is Sydney Hospital, right in here on Macquarie Street in Sydney. It was here that Anita worked as a nurse, and on the Sunday of her murder she finished her shift mid-afternoon, and then at approximately 5:30 p.m. with two of her friends, Lynn Bradshaw and Elaine Bray, in two separate cars, they drove a short distance to Elizabeth Street in Redfern. Not that far at all away. So this is Elizabeth Street, Redfern, along here. And on that Sunday night, Anita and her two friends attended the Azar's restaurant, a Lebanese restaurant, for dinner. Now that restaurant is gone, it's not there anymore, and I don't know the exact address of the restaurant, but I would assume it's in this, probably this vicinity here on Elizabeth Street, Redfern. And that's where the three friends had dinner. Now they left, Anita left with her friend Lynn Bradshaw at about 8:30 p.m. and Lynn drove Anita the short distance to Central Station. Now Anita was dropped off here on Eddy Avenue, which is directly in front of the station, by Lynn Bradshaw sometime around 8:30 p.m. Now, Lynn actually offered Anita a place to stay overnight because they were both due at work the next morning at Sydney Hospital, but Anita decided to go home. So Anita entered Central Station and she came to platform 8, which is right here, and she caught the next train out to Blacktown Station, out in the western suburbs of Sydney, which is about a 40-45 minute train drive away. So Anita arrived here at Blacktown Station sometime at around 9:30 p.m. that Sunday night, and she would have emerged in this area here, which is, I believe, called Main Street. Now, her normal procedure. Now, at the time, Anita was separated from her husband John Cobby, and she temporarily moved back home to her parents' home and her childhood home in Blacktown in Sullivan Street. So her normal course was to either catch a taxi home or use the payphones and call up her dad, Gary Lynch. But she didn't. Now, there mustn't have been any taxis in sight, and apparently the phones were out of order, probably been vandalised. So Anita decided, it was a hot night, it had been 38 degrees in Sydney that day. Anita decided to walk home, which is probably half-hour walk, maybe a bit more. I walked it myself and it was a fair walk. So which direction Anita left from and her exact route, not 100% sure, but most likely along Kildare Road. Then you get to this main road, which is Balmoral Street, and that leads all the way up to here, which is Newton Road. Now this is the road Anita walked along. We know that for sure because unfortunately she didn't make it home. Tragically, she was abducted in this location here on Newton Road. in front of a little park, a Fitzsimmons Walkway it's called. On the road here was where John Travers, Mick Murdoch and the three Murphy brothers dragged her into the car. Right there. Now Anita's home was not that far away. We'll go to 4 Sullivan Street, which is just down a bit over here. So that's 4 Sullivan Street, her childhood home, and where she lived with her parents, Gary and Grace Lynch. But she never made it to 4 Sullivan Street, Blacktown. As you can see, that's where the abduction site was there, and her home just down here. So that's if we look at it on a larger scale, Blacktown station up here, her abduction site there, and her home was there. So those are the initial sites of the Anita Cobby abduction. On Sunday, February the 2nd, 1986, Anita Cobby worked here at Sydney Hospital as a nurse. It was a very hot day, 38 degrees, and after work, at 5:30 p.m, Anita and her 2 friends and fellow nurses, Lynn Bradshaw and Elaine Bray, left Sydney Hospital here in 2 cars, and they travelled to a Lebanese restaurant in Elizabeth Street, Redfern. But this is where Anita Cobby worked on that fateful Sunday. After finishing tea with nearby Redfern, Lynn Bradshaw and Anita Cobby leave the restaurant circa 8:30 p.m. and Lynn drives Anita here to Eddy Avenue, to Central Station. At approximately 8:45 p.m, Anita is dropped off by her friend. Now, ironically and tragically, Lynn actually offered Anita to stay over for the night because it was getting late in the night, but Anita said she wanted to go home, which she did. Terrible irony. So Anita bid adieu to her friend and walked into Sydney's Central Station here on Eddy Avenue. We're at Blacktown Station, the western suburbs of Sydney, and this is where Anita Cobby disembarked on the night of February the 2nd, 1986, circa 9:40 p.m. on a hot Sunday night. When she arrived here, her normal plan was to either call her dad up to pick her up or to catch a taxi. On that particular night, as fate would have it, the phones were vandalised and out of order, and there were no taxis. As we can see now, there's an absolute overabundance of taxis. So faced with that, Anita decided to walk home. The trip from Sydney is about 40 minutes. I myself just took that train trip, so circa 40 minutes. And a walk home for Anita, which was about, let me just check my notes. The walk home's about 2.5 kilometres, so a good 30-minute walk. But it was a warm night, and Anita was familiar with the area, and she set off walking, finding herself to Newton Road. But tragically, she would never make it home. But this is where Anita left on that Sunday night in February 1986. I'm standing on Newton Road in Blacktown at the site of the Anita Cobby abduction. And this general area here is where she was snatched. I'm in front of Fitzsimmons Walkway, and it was in this area right here that Anita was abducted. Now I'm about 1.2 kilometers from Newton Station, Blacktown Station, about halfway to go to Anita's home. She was walking along here, most likely on this side of the footpath on the road. As she walked along, this was about 9:50 p.m. at night on a hot Sunday night, a car with 5 men inside: 18-year-old John Travers, 18-year-old Mick Murdoch, 33-year-old Mick Murphy, 28-year-old Gary Murphy, and 23-year-old Les Murphy pulled up alongside her and dragged her into the car. Now across the road here, we can zoom in, is number 87 Newton Road. See if I can find that. There it is, boom. That's 87 Newton Road. Let's walk a bit and have a bit of a closer look. Yes, now over there lived a 14-year-old girl named Linda McGawhy. She was inside watching TV that night. Excuse me. When she heard the screams outside, she ran outside and saw Anita being dragged into a white Holden car. She alerted her older brother John, also came running out. So John McGawhy came running out of the house, seeing the abduction, and actually ran into the street here. But as he did, the car with the 5 men drove off with Anita in it. Also on this street, I believe on this side of Newton Road, was another witness, a 16-year-old boy named Paul Hodson, who also heard the Anita's cries and ran out to his driveway. He saw the car speed away, and he and 2 neighbours actually went searching for the next 10 minutes looking for the car, but were unable to find it. Meanwhile, back here at 87 Newton Road, Paul McGawhy, the older brother of Linda and John, he returned home about 10 minutes later with his girlfriend Lorraine Rusher. Now, the 2 kids, Linda and John, told them about the abduction, what they had witnessed. So, after that, Paul and Lorraine got into their car and went searching for the description of the car that John and Linda had given. Now, amazingly, they reasoned that, where would you take a woman that abducted? And they reasoned that Reen Road would be the appropriate place, which apparently was a famous lover's lane. And so Paul and Lorraine drove down Reen Road with a spotlight looking for the car. Unfortunately, they didn't find the car that matched the description. I think they may have got the description of the cars mixed up, but unbelievably, that's exactly where Travers and his gang took Anita Cobby, where they continued to rape and then murder her. But tragically, Paul McGawhy did not find her. Just so many what ifs and could have beens. But this right here in Newton Road is the site of the Anita Cobby abduction. As I said, about 1.2 kilometres from Blacktown Station. Anita would have been walking home on that hot Sunday night, but this is as far as she got. The abduction of Anita Cobby. I'm standing in front of number 4 Sullivan Street, Blacktown. This is the former home of Anita Cobby. Anita Lorraine Cobby was born on November the 2nd, 1959. Her parents, Gary and Grace Lynch, Lynch being Anita's maiden name. On March 27th, 1982, Anita married John Cobby. In September 1985, they separated, And in doing so, Anita actually moved back here to 4 Sullivan Street to live with her parents, Gary and Grace. And it was this home that Anita was attempting to walk back to when she was abducted on Newton Road. Bit of a hilly street here. Quite a nice area, and just down the road here on Sullivan Street is a reserve which has been named after Anita. "4 Sullivan Street, Blacktown, the former home of Anita Cobby." Here on Sullivan Street there is the Anita Cobby Reserve. How nice is that? Very simple, elegant touch. Anita's home is about 50 metres or so from here. Slide up that hill there. That's about 4 Sullivan Streets up there. This is Anita Cobby Reserve, named in honour of Anita. A really nice touch. On February 4th, 1986, Anita Cobby's body was found. She was discovered by a man named John Reen, age 43, and she was found lying in Boiler Paddock on Reen Road. Now, I didn't get to the location of where Anita was found when I was in Sydney for several reasons. First of all, this is the area approximately where Anita was found. Now, one of the reasons I didn't go there because I don't know the exact location where Anita was found, and the actual location appears to be inaccessible by the road. It is all fenced off, and it was a bit of an out of the way location. Someone has to rely on public transport or taxis to get around. It was just the whole lot of things made it difficult. So we'll look here on Google Earth. Now, complicating matters is that when Anita was found, it was called Reen Road. Now, there is no Reen Road anymore, but apparently Reen Road is now known as Peter Brock Drive. This road here. Peter Brock Drive runs all the way around here. You see it's very close to Blacktown, where Anita lived. Let me just have a comparison where Anita lived. Okay, so that's 4 Sullivan Street up there. So there's 4 Sullivan Street. See if I can give an idea of, and there's down the bottom here is where Anita was found. So 4 Sullivan Street here, Anita found there. So a fairly close area, just on the outskirts of Blacktown. But yeah, so Anita was found, I think, somewhere in this area here. Is a paddock area. It was called Boiler Paddock. Complicating things further, there's in this area up here, get down to here. What's this road called here? This is called Boiler Court, I think. So was that the paddock? I'm really not sure. It's obviously changed a bit since 1986, but getting back down here to where Anita was found. Now, if I go to Google Earth, this is the area. This is Peter Brock Drive on Google Maps, which, as you can see, there's fences. The area is fenced off, so inaccessible, but exactly where Anita was found, I myself not even sure. So, but in this general location was Anita found. As I said, she was found on February the 4th, 1986, which was 2 days after her murder. She was found by John Reen, who lived in a nearby home. Again, I'm not sure where he lived. It could be in this. There's houses here. This could have been the Reen property there. It was some distance from their home, at least several hundred meters. So Anita could have been found in here, perhaps, or at least here. So we'll go with that. And of course, you know, Anita suffered terrible injuries. She'd been gang raped by the 5 men. She had died from her throat being cut. There were 3 major cuts to her throat. One was at least 30 centimeters long, and she died of blood loss. They estimated it would have taken maybe 2 minutes for her to have bled to death. Her body was covered with bruises. There were cuts from the barbed wire. When they had taken her into the paddock, there must have been a barbed wire fencing, probably on the outskirts here, and that dragged her through that, causing various cuts. She had quite extensive defensive wounds to her hands, fractures of the hand, and 2 fingers had been cut right to the bone in an attempt to fend off the knife. Of course, there was the sexual assaults. Her anus was lacerated, indicating she had been sodomized. It's just a truly barbaric and ghastly murder. No need to go into further grisly details, but yeah, Anita was found here on February 4th, 1986. Now, the first link to her killers came from on February the 11th, 1986, which was, 9 days after Anita was murdered. A caller nominated John Travers and the rest of his crew as linking them to a stolen car, which was linked to the murder. So that's how the police started to get very interested in John Travers and co. Now, on February the 21st, 1986, let's go to the next location, which was at 27 Julesford Road in Wentworthville. Okay, so in this house here, get me a bit of a close up there. You can see this house here. Yeah, this is on February 21st, 1986, is when John Travers and Mick Murdoch were both arrested there. The address is 27 Julesford Road in Wentworthville. Now, it was actually the home of John Travers' uncle. That's where Travers was staying at the time. When he was arrested, when they were arrested, both Travers and Murdoch were found in bed together. So, on the same day, Les Murphy was arrested. Now, he was arrested at a place called, let me get to it, this place here, 5 Titch Place in Doonside. Now, this was actually the home of John Travers. And the police went there thinking Travers would be there, but instead they found Les Murphy. So Les Murphy was arrested here at Travers' home in 5 Titch Place. Now, all 3 were taken to the Blacktown police station. They actually found a knife on John Travers, which had bloodstains on it, but I don't think it wasn't the murder weapon. Travers claimed he killed animals with it, which was something he did, and he actually said, when the police asked him about the knife, without even mentioning Anita Cobby, Travers said, "I didn't slit that slut's throat." So, geez. Anyway, John Travers was held in police custody on I think they charged him with stealing car, and also he was a suspect in other sexual assaults. So the police detained Travers. However, Mick Murdoch and Les Murphy were bailed. But John Travers couldn't keep his mouth shut, and he actually confessed to the murder of Anita Cobby to a woman, his uncle's girlfriend, whom he considered his auntie. He confessed to her while he was in his cell. The police wired her up, and on February the 23rd, 1986, he made a confession, again going into detail about Anita Cobby's murder to this woman, who was later known in court only as Miss X. I think her name has always been suppressed, and they had it now on recording. So, and of course Travers implicated the Murphy brothers and Murdoch as well. So at that time only Travers was in police custody, so the police needed to find the other crew. Now the next location we go to was on February the 24th, 1986. Mick Murdoch is arrested here in Booth Street, Westmead. I haven't found the exact number, the house number. So, but yeah, that's Booth Street there. So around there was Mick Murdoch arrested. On the same day that Mick Murdoch was arrested, the police quickly closed in on Les Murphy, and he was arrested that same day on Railway Street in Granville. Again, I don't know the exact location, but he was this street here, not far from Granville train station, ironically. Yeah, this street here is Railway Street. That's where Les Murphy was arrested on February 24th, 1986. So at this point, the police had in custody John Travers, Mick Murdoch, and Les Murphy, but two of the Murphy brothers still remained on the loose, Gary and Mick Murphy. But their turn came. Let's go to this address now. On February the 26th, 1986, at 10 p.m. that night, the police raided this home here, 22 Tarry Way in Glenfield. Let me get a bit of a closer look here. The police had it staked out, and they made their move at about 10 at night. Yeah, so this home here was where Mick and Gary Murphy were arrested. Now the police burst in. Mick Murphy apparently was just sitting down and went quietly, but Gary, he wasn't going quietly. He ran out the back, where the police tackled him, to put it lightly, and by the sounds of it, they roughed him up pretty good, because he emerged with all kinds of cuts and bruises. Not only that, Gary Murphy, but on being arrested, urinated himself. That's how afraid he was. I think that's a defining image of these five psychopaths, that they could be so brutal to Anita, but yet when the police arrested them, one of them would wet themselves. So that's where the search for the gang ended on February 26, 1986. So what's that? That's 24 days after Anita was murdered. Police had all five men in custody: John Travers, Mick Murdoch, and the three Murphy brothers, Gary, Mick, and Les. And they were all charged with Anita's Cobby murder, with each predictably variously trying to blame each other. Now, their trial was held in Sydney. Cruise over to there. This is where their trial was held, at the Darlinghurst Courthouse in Oxford Street, in, what's that, East Sydney, not far from the Central Business District. Their trial commenced on March 16th, 1987, and on June the 10th, 1987, all five men were convicted of Anita's murder. And on June 16th, 1987, all five were sentenced to life imprisonment and never to be released. Now, where is Long Bay Prison we'll go to next, which is just a bit further south, I believe. Here we go. So this is the Long Bay Correctional Complex, and it was here on February the 21st, 2019, where Mick Murphy died, I believe of liver cancer. He was aged 66. So, of the 5, Mick Murphy's dead, but as of the time of this recording, which I'm saying this in January 2024, the 4 others, Travers, Murdoch, and that would leave who? Gary and Les Murphy, are still in prison. I assume somewhere in the Sydney, New South Wales area. So that's the locations associated with the arrests of Travers and the gang for the Anita Cobby murder. I'm at the graveside of Anita Cobby and her parents here in Pine Grove Memorial Park in Minchinbury, Sydney, New South Wales. Anita's grave is it's a bit hard to see with the sun at the moment, and I can't see so well with my backlight. It says Anita Lorraine Cobby, 1959-1986. Her light shines forever. Her parents are also here. In loving memory of Gary Bernard Lynch, born July 7, 1918, died September 14, 2008. Beloved husband of Grace, Peg, devoted father of Anita and Catherine, cherished granddad of Cameron and Olivia, always in our hearts. That was Anita's father. Over here is Anita's mother. In loving memory, Grace Ada Lynch, Peg, she was more commonly known as. Born June 9, 1925, died July 1st, 2013. A loving mother and grandmother, a gentle soul and an inspiration to many, always in our hearts, at rest with God. And one more plaque over here which just states Anita Cobby and Lynch Family Memorial. So yeah, very nicely done. I certainly remember Gary and Peg Lynch on the TV. Remember in the 90s watching the midday show, and they would both be on. Did a lot of work advocating for victims of homicide and things like that, so often saw them in the media over the years. I remember hearing of Gary's death. I don't think I heard of Grace's, but it was certainly sad. But here they are, all together with Anita. So once again here at the Pine Grove Memorial Park. It's not far from the entrance of the cemetery, the I think it's Kington Road entrance, and you simply walk to the roundabout 50 meters or so, then when you get to the roundabout, make a left, and this is where Anita and her parents are. So rest in peace, Anita.